Thank you guys for joining us. I want to welcome you to our virtual career expo. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. We do have a few attendees with us that we are excited to have students and teachers from Lee Summit District, Herndon Career Center, or Southland CAPS. My name is Katie Zeiger. I'm an assistant director at Herndon Career Center and Southland CAPS, and I'm excited to be your facilitator for today. This event has been organized in partnership with Lee Summit Economic Development Council and Herndon Career Center Southland CAPS. And we are just really excited to learn more about what skilled trades look like in the industry, what job openings are there today, what the future of the industry can look like. And for this session specifically, we're looking at the residential side. So we know there's the commercial side to construction and trades, and then also the residential piece and how all those work together. I always think of it as kind of that big puzzle because you've got all the different specialties and trades that have to come together to make that final product. And so we are hoping to learn a little bit more about that today. And so with us today, we have Justin Schulmeister from Royal Door Garage Company and Nick Brummel from Brummel Lawn and Landscape. And we will get started here and dive into some of those first questions. I do want to remind you there is the question and answer panel at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question live, we'll be taking those throughout the session. So don't hesitate to type that in and we will try to get you an answer to your questions live. So we will start out with the very first question. And, Justin, you want to start us off with introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Royal Door, and what you do.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Justin Schulmeister. I'm the owner of Royal Door. We're a garage door company out of Lee Summit, and we do mainly residential services. So that does kind of tie in well with the panel that we're in here. We do some commercial work, but I'd say majority residential. So we do garage door repairs, installs, garage door openers, pretty much anything with garage doors we do. So we've now been in business a little over 5 years. So I actually started the company in January of 2016, which I actually graduated from Herndon in 2015. So it's just shortly out of high school there that I got started with it. So we've been going strong ever since.
Perfect. Thank you. And we love that you're an alumni, and we appreciate your support of our event today. Nick, do you want to do the same? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, how you got started.
Yep. My name is Nick Brummel, one of the owners of Brummel Lawn and Landscape. We started in 2006 after my partner and I graduated from Northwest Missouri State University. Decided that there was a need for more lawn care companies, surprisingly, in the Kansas City market. But we've been able to take it from the two of us to over 70 employees and keep growing every day.
Awesome. Well, and again, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the residential sector and how that differs from the commercial side. Justin, do you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, so the residential side, I would say there's definitely a lot more of that face-on-face interaction with homeowners. Is more of my side of it. And a lot of what we do is going to be with individuals, not necessarily like new construction work. To where it's different, instead of us just working with builders or a bunch of contractors, a lot of what we do is more homeowner facing. So with that, I guess that kind of brings a lot more of that customer service side of it into it, where you have to be very mindful and respectful of a customer's home. And I guess there's just there's more to it than just being in a workspace where all you have to do is get the job done. Again, you might be working around customers' vehicles. They may have stuff in the garage, where you have to be a lot more mindful about what's going on. Again, being respectful of the job site as well. And I think that definitely it kind of plays in, I would say, more towards I guess kind of your own behavior and how you treat things, which I will say, like, that's a lot of how I learned from Herndon of keeping a clean job site, being respectful to everybody around. I feel like that's definitely something that for my side of the residential business is a lot more important than if I were just working on like a new construction job site. I did work on like a framing crew and just throughout high school, and definitely kind of a different side of that for us, where again the customer service side wasn't really a thing there. Where again we're just working with other contractors, And I feel like for me to be successful in my industry, definitely just learning that general respect and how to work with other people is definitely a huge part of that. More on the, I'd say, the residential side than anything for us.
Absolutely. And I know you said that you're working primarily more with the owner as compared to the builder. Do you do primarily repairs or you install?
Um,
Both?
I, I'd say a lot of both, honestly. So a lot of times we'll just show up to do a simple repair. There's plenty of times that might lead to a new door install as well. And there's plenty of jobs we just show up on just to do brand new garage doors as well. So I'd say quite a bit of both.
Absolutely. Thank you. Nick, I know you guys work a lot with both the commercial and the residential side. Is there anything that you say you feel different, or do you agree with that customer service being a big difference maker on the two industries?
For us, the customer service is twofold, because customer service on the commercial side for us is pretty important too, just because we're dealing with property managers and that kind of thing. But more than anything, it's making sure you're on time to appointments and that kind of stuff. With residential. Commercial, they're going to be there from the 8 to 5 or the 9 to 6 or whatever it is. But residential, if you tell them you're going to be there at 2 o'clock on a Thursday and it's 2:15 and you're not there, you're already making yourself look bad and starting out on the wrong foot, because they're already going to be angry by the time you get there. But with residential, for us on the landscape side of things, it's not trying to meet a city requirement or some sort of requirement to do something. They're doing an enhancement for their house. So just to see the final project and the final look on their face when we get done with the project, and knowing that they're going to use that outdoor space for the next 15 years and so on and so forth. So it's a big difference on commercial versus residential.
Absolutely. I have to assume that instant reward too, of whenever you see, like you said, you see that customer's face, or you get to see the final product, or even, a tag on social media where you get to see the difference of the before and after. What a difference that makes for that customer themselves too.
Yeah, you don't see that with commercial. They're just saying, great, thanks, I'm back to working, versus a residential that's super excited, or as little as fixing their sprinkler system and they know that they have that water, versus commercial just expects it to be done. So
Perfect. Now, as owners of companies, tell me a little bit about what you guys do and what your specific role is within the company. How hands are you? How has that evolved over the years? Nick, do you want to start us off?
yeah, so on day one, I was 100% involved with, from mowing to billing to marketing and all that. But as we've grown and everything and gotten to where we are, I'm pretty much on the commercial side as far as account managing, and then doing our day-to-day as far as making sure everything's running smoothly as far as the office side. We have a general manager, and my fellow owner runs the operations side. So I get the fun side of things as far as being in the office and getting to deal with clients.
Very nice. And Justin, how does that look for your day?
Yeah, so I will say whenever I first started, of course, I was doing absolutely everything. So from answering phone calls, whether it was a repair and install, accounting, I did absolutely everything. Right now, I'm still fairly hands-on with most parts of the business. I would say my day-to-day is probably filled mainly with like quotes and just sales calls. So going out and trying to meet new customers, selling the job itself, and then a lot of like scheduling, communicating, emails, phone calls, just with customers as well as with my employees, scheduling, things like that. And of course, being a business owner, you have your hands in a little bit of everything. So there's always stuff here and there that you're kind of dealing with. Which that's the one thing I do like about it, is I feel like it keeps me pretty well rounded as far as being able to do all kinds of different things. Still show up on installs, especially some of the larger commercial jobs, where I'll still be there helping out quite a bit. So it's nice to still stay on the job site and get to meet with customers. I guess I like that kind of change in pace where you're getting to do a little bit of everything instead of just the same thing day in and day out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what would that entry level position look like? Tell me a little bit about the day to day for one of your entry level workers. If I'm leaving high school and I'm going out into the industry.
Yes. So for us, basically there's an installer that mainly just focuses on new door installs, which those are going to be longer jobs where we only have 1 or 2 installs in a day. To where normally it'll show up to the shop and then we'll get started going up to the suppliers, picking up doors if we don't already have them, and then show up to a customer's house, or if it's a commercial job, to the building that we're working on that day. And a lot of those, it's just generally for us. I mean, if there's an existing garage door, taking down the old door, start installing the new one, and there's a lot of little adjustments and everything in between there as well. But once you learn the job, it's really not too bad of work. A lot of it's fairly sheltered, which is one thing one thing that's nice is because you can work pretty much every day, whether it's snowing, raining. You're pretty well kept inside there. Now, of course, you're still moving back and forth from the truck, so some of those rain days aren't as much fun. But I did like that part of it, that it was fairly consistent for us, to where all year long we've got pretty steady workflow coming through. So that's more of like the install side of it. While if you're like a repair technician, you're normally going to be on shorter jobs, to where you may do, I mean, 5, 6, 7, 8 jobs in a day, just depending on what they are. Where you're kind of just driving from one job to the next, could range between 15 minutes to probably an hour and a half, 2 hours long, just depending on the job at hand. To where there you're kind of changing pace a little bit more, just like quite a few more smaller jobs than anything. And so that's
Absolutely.
kind of the day to day.
Absolutely. And Nick, I know that you guys are with landscaping a, very different piece of it. How does weather play a factor? I heard Justin say they're, pretty sheltered, which is nice. How does that though play a factor for you guys on your end of things, especially when it comes to scheduling, moving jobs around, some things you just can't control?
So it's pretty much what we live and die by is the weather, and we subscribe to 2 different weather services, and they still can never get it right. But it is what it is, and so if we get rained out on a Monday for our mow crews, it moves to a Tuesday, and then everybody shifts back one day. Landscaping, if we get rain on a Monday, they might not go back to that job site till a Wednesday, and they got to do something that they can do with it being a little bit drier. So it's pretty fluid as far as our schedules go. Our start time's at 7 in the morning, and then it can go until dark one night, or it can be as early as 3 in the afternoon. It just kind of depends. And so it definitely is a challenge, and it's never the same day twice.
Okay. So if I'm coming in as an entry-level worker, am I expecting to make 40 hours a week? Am I expecting 20? Does it just kind of vary depending on my role?
So for us, it definitely depends. I mean, you could have 60 hours during the peak season, and then 20 hours or 25 in the off season. And it also depends on what department you go into. If you go into the detail department, where we're pulling weeds and planting flowers and trimming shrubs, that's kind of a different area versus mowing, that you have a set amount of yards that you're cutting that week. And if you get it done in 5 days, great. If you get it done in 6 great days, it is what it is. And then landscaping just depends on their workload and what type of jobs they have coming up as well. So it can be a wide range of how many hours, and it all depends on how much you really want to work too.
Oh, good. So little flexibility then too.
Yeah.
So for both you guys, what type of education or training did you need to secure a position? I guess what kind of training kind of set you on this path to opening your own business? I know, Justin, you referenced that you did go to Herndon, the Career Center. And so how do you feel like that really helped you in your pathway?
Yeah, one thing that I think really helped, as far as the program I went to, the construction trades program, is I kind of learned a little bit of every industry. Now, one of them that I didn't learn there was garage doors. It is kind of a fairly specific industry, but just in general, learning all the different trades. So, I mean, framing, concrete, plumbing, electrical. It's amazing how much that kind of helped me just get a better grasp on what to expect on the average job site, and that definitely helped out a lot. Just giving me kind of an idea of what industry I wanted to get into, getting to kind of get my feet wet with all the different trades. Realistically, I probably could have started a business with just about anything. But I kind of like the garage doors, just being that there weren't a whole lot of garage door companies out there in comparison to some. And I did like the idea of just having steady work kind of all year long as well. And I definitely would say that I do like more of the customer facing side of it. I love just getting to meet with customers, getting to build those relationships. So that's kind of what I liked about garage doors, being that it is more of kind of an in-home experience, I would say, versus more of just that new construction trades, like quite a few of those are. So that's kind of, I guess I gravitated towards that a little bit, which definitely helped out, having the experience I did there at Herndon. And I did work for another garage door company throughout high school. So that's kind of where I got that training and experience to figure out that might be an industry I'd want to go into. Specifically though, for our company, it really doesn't take a whole lot of training prior to starting with us. That's something that we can always train on the specific job itself. A lot of it for us, it's just more of its attitude, and then work ethic is the biggest thing. Just hiring someone with a good attitude, someone that wants to be there. Again, good customer service, who's going to be friendly and respectful to our customers as well as other employees they'll be working with. And then I guess work ethic is the other big thing. Someone that's going to show up every day, wants to be there. I think that's probably the biggest thing. One, I guess, downfall too, working in some of the construction industries, and just kind of outside in general, is of course weather as well. So there's some days that may be colder than others, or like in landscape too, I'm sure there's some days that are probably pretty hot too, where you have to have someone who's willing to work in those tougher conditions. Most of the time it's not too bad, but still it's not quite an office job. So I think finding someone who's okay with that as well, that's probably the biggest thing. As far as actual training, like I said, a lot of that we can just do once you get started with us. So
Awesome. Nick, what does that look like for you guys? How does, first, I guess, tell me a little bit about your training and background. I know you said going through post-secondary education, and then how you got to where you were. So tell me a little bit about your training, and then also what you guys look for in your new employees.
So I'll agree with Justin. As long as you have a great work ethic, we'll take anybody and everybody that's got a great work ethic, willing to show up, and you can learn so much from just hands-on. I did decide to go to college because there wasn't a program at Herndon at the time like there is now. So it was a big difference. I would have definitely used that in high school and got some more experience versus I went and worked on a golf course and kind of realized that I did like this, but that was about it. Then I jumped into college and decided to keep going with it versus having a hands-on experience and getting some credit while I was doing that. So I just dove right in and decided this is what I was going to do and got a 4-year degree in it, and hope for the best as far as opening a company and being successful, being able to grow during a recession and all that. But as far as someone that's wanting to start out, it's just coming in with an open attitude and an open mind and just learning as you go. Our general manager doesn't have any formal secondary education, and he started kind of at the bottom right out of high school and has worked his way up to knowing the industry as well as any of us. And so, I mean, as long as you have a good work ethic and you're willing to learn, you can go anywhere.
Absolutely. And starting your own company is such a big leap. What kind of market research did you guys feel? I know you both referenced that just in conversation that you felt like there needed more companies in the industry. And so what kind of market research, or what kind of pushed you to start your own, to branch out?
yeah, so for me, one thing that I kind of looked into was, and I know you mentioned starting a business in the recession. So kind of hearing about that, I know that hit new construction pretty hard. So for me, it was kind of looking for an industry that wouldn't be as affected if anything like that happened again. I know that, new construction kind of just came to a halt. So I know even in the garage door industry, a lot of the companies that just focused on new construction went out of business pretty quick because that was the majority of their business. So for me, it was finding something that was going to be steady, not only all year long, summer, winter, snow, rain, but just, if there was any kind of, housing market crash, where there's still going to be plenty of, garage doors that need to be repaired, replaced, where we aren't solely new construction. So that was, I guess, the main market research for me, was finding an industry that was pretty stable, I guess I would say, kind of all year long. And like I said, kind of regardless of what happens with the market as well. Of course, things, if anything like that happens, they're not going to be as busy or as good as they are today. But I think that, just kind of working with individuals where regardless, of what happens, if your garage door is broken, you need to get it fixed. So for me, it was just looking for kind of a steady industry, I guess. And then also knowing that I wanted to start it on my own, something that wasn't very capital intensive, especially at a younger age as well. I didn't have, a whole lot of time to save up a whole lot of money, being that I started the business right out of high school. So for me, it was looking at something that didn't have a whole lot of startup cost. I didn't need a whole lot of labor as far as like hired help, right from day one, something I could kind of start on my own. So I guess I just kind of had threw a few of those things together, and that's how I came upon garage doors.
Awesome.
So I was in the golf course side of things, and then kind of saw it starting to decline a little bit, and decided golf courses weren't the way I wanted to go. I didn't want to work every weekend. I didn't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning. So I turned to lawn care, did an internship at a lawn care company in the Kansas City area, and just noticed the lack of, customer service and all that, and thought I could do it better. So after doing the internship, one of my senior classes was we put together a business plan, and we just took it from there and implemented it and said, what the heck? So graduated college and went out on our own, and here we are.
Perfect. Well, it seems like it's worked out pretty well, so that's good. Tell me a little bit about what kind of classes do you think in high school what kind of classes do you think students could take in high school that would help them in the industry if this is something they want to go into?
For me, I would definitely say like any of the shop classes, so industrial tech. I mean, about any of those classes you can take. I think I was probably in about every single one of them since middle school. Any chance I got to, whether it was small engine repair, just industrial tech, where even it was just wood shop. I mean, any class like that where you really get to get hands on, which I was always interested in that kind of stuff, anyways. But for me, I guess I kind of knew at a younger age that I didn't want to go to college, at least right away. So for me, I knew that all those college level classes, all of that, algebra, it's all good to know, and I'm all about education and especially continued education. For me, once I know what I want to learn, I can get a lot more out of it, versus just learning a bunch of classes I wasn't too interested in. That didn't do as much for me back in high school. While, like I said, all of the kind of the hands-on trades classes that I went to, that was probably the most beneficial thing that I could have done. And I would definitely recommend to any students that are thinking about pursuing any kind of construction industry, just getting hands-on. And then I think it's cool too at a younger age to try a few different things. I mean, go get different part-time jobs, throughout the summer. I mean, all kinds of industries are always looking for summer help. So go get your hands on with that, see what you like doing. I think that's probably one of the best ways to figure out kind of what you want to do, is getting to try different jobs out and then see how you like them. I think that experience is probably the best way to kind of go about that. So
For me, it'd be paying a little bit more attention in my Spanish classes. That would help me a lot more in my day to day, but also just the marketing classes. And I'm going to give a quick plug for the turf program that's now at Herndon. That would be a great one to be part of, but it's being more well-rounded and having some of those skills of, as a business owner, you might not be the accountant in your office, but having a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of that, so then you can understand your financial sheets and all that kind of stuff. So just having a little bit of knowledge of a lot of different skills will help you a long ways.
Awesome. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. We had a question come in on the Q&A. And so this question is for Justin. When you reached out about getting your own company, did you talk to other people who own businesses when you tried to decide on your own type of company?
yeah, so I'm trying to think back on that. I'm sure that I would have back at the time. I do think I talked to quite a few different business owners about it. Just seeing like how they got started out, and it definitely just kind of asking around and asking other businesses. That's one thing I will say is business owners are always very happy to help. So I will say I got a ton of support. One thing too, which this was, I guess, after I started the company, shortly after, I was part of the Chamber of Commerce in Lee Summit, the city where the business is in. And I will say that was a great resource. There's so many different businesses that are all more than happy to help and tell you their experiences starting up. And so I will definitely say that there are a lot of business owners that are very willing to help, especially when you're at a younger age, right out of high school. It seemed like everyone was very excited to kind of lend a helping hand. So yeah, I would say that that's probably the best way to go about it. If you can talk to other business owners, especially even in similar industries. At the end of the day, a lot of businesses, you still have to know personal finance, all of those other non-industry specific things of running a business that most business owners know and can help you with. So yeah, absolutely, I think that would be great to ask around to any other business owners. And like I said, I know the Chamber of Commerce is great because again, it's a lot of normally a lot of willing willing business owners to help on things like that. So yeah, absolutely.
And tying into that, I know you both, because I've seen you both on our campus. How does mentorship play a role in what you guys do on the day to day? I know, Justin, you've donated materials and come in and done lessons for our construction classes, and Nick with the site visits and setting our students up with internship opportunities or job shadowing opportunities. How do you guys feel that mentorship plays a role in what you do, and how important do you feel that finding a mentor as a high school student? How important do you think finding a mentor is that can help guide you on your pathway?
I think it's a huge deal. Being able to have somebody to have a support system and be able to grow with, or even ask the questions that you might not feel comfortable asking in front of a huge group, but if you can ask it one-on-one, it makes a huge difference. I had a mentor going through this at the beginning, and now we've gone to having peers. So we'll reach out to other lawn companies and other markets throughout the United States and throw ideas back and forth. And so instead of having a mentor at this point, we're doing peer groups to bounce off ideas. So even if you don't have a mentor, you still got to find a different avenue, and asking people for help and having other people to ask the questions to is never a bad thing.
Absolutely. Justin, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I will say it does seem like, especially more industry specific as well, once you do get into, if you already start, your business, it seems like nowadays online, there's all kinds of different options where you have other, and even in similar industries where you do have people, whether it's podcasts, just a forum online, there's all kinds of people that are just more than willing to share all their experiences, knowing that, there's so much work out there that they don't necessarily look at everyone as competition. And a lot of people don't, to where, and it does help too if you find someone who's not in your direct market. So again, out of state, but they're always more than willing to help. And same thing, you can always just go back and forth with them of saying, hey, here's what I do in this instance, or here's a new marketing strategy that I've started implementing. Here's the results I've got, and then kind of go back and forth. So I'd say nowadays, like I said, online there are quite a few different podcasts as well, where even audiobooks, that it seems like that's where I've had the best luck of just hearing other people's experiences. Being that a lot of like the construction industries have been around for quite a while, compared to some like the technology and some of those industries that are a little bit newer. Construction's been around for a while, so there is a lot of market research out there, to where you can definitely find a lot of information, and even online as well. But of course, nothing's better than having a mentor that can answer specific questions for you. That's always great as well. And I will say, even just to give a shout out to the instructors at Herndon, they're always a great avenue as well to run anything by. So I know someone mentioned that even if you don't necessarily feel comfortable asking a question in front of the entire class, I can't tell you how many times I got to stay after and just kind of talk to Jim about different questions that I may have had. And I mean, always great help with any questions that I may have had. So like I said, always use the instructors as a tool as well. They're there to help and are always very willing to. So
good. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, and you guys have talked about this briefly already, but we had some specific questions come in before the panel started that was really talking about work environment. So what does your work environment look like? And I know, Justin, you've said you have to deal with some of the barriers at different people's houses. So every work environment might not look the same, as far as how, in your situation, maybe how full the garage is, or, Nick, in your guys' situation with slopes and those kinds of things. But so one question specific being, what does your work environment look like? Training, you've talked about your different pathways and what that looks like, but if I'm going to be ground level, how do I get that training as an entry level employee? And then what would be the fastest way to start a career in this industry? So all these kind of looking about your day-to-day. So that environment piece, training within that environment, and then how do you just jump straight into this? Can you jump straight into it?
yeah, so for us, a lot of it is just on-site training. So that's what we found is the fastest way. We just get thrown in with one of our experienced technicians, And from there, I mean, basically, we just have them, set them up with a set of tool pouches and everything they need to do the job. And then we'll just show them, as we go exactly what we do. And then it's one of those things where, each time, each day try to teach them something different. Make sure they've kind of got that down. Let them, let's say that teach them one thing, one day, and then the next day have them try to do it on their own. And of course, any questions they have, we're always happy to answer. But just kind of let them learn how to do it on site. That's the best way to learn. I know, especially being full time, that's the one thing that it seems like you pick up really quick on things whenever you do it day in and day out. I know I worked for a company part time throughout high school, and it seemed like it took a lot longer for me to learn what to do when I was just doing it, let's say, on weekends, where quite a few days went by before I got to do it again, maybe weeks. Definitely a little harder to learn, but when you're doing things every day, it seems like you pick up on them pretty quick. For us, I would say, like, on the average door install, you really learn how to do most facets of the job within probably about the first month, I would say. But like I said, mainly just all on the job training. And a lot of it for us is just kind of having a little bit of that mechanical inclination of just knowing how things work. That's the biggest thing. It's just having a general idea of, again, what makes things work. That kind of helps out a little bit too. If you already kind of have that idea, where you just kind of just step back and think about it for a second of, okay, well, where would this go if this is its purpose? And then you can normally figure a lot of the different parts out kind of as you go. And that, I feel like that kind of that aptitude to want to learn how things work definitely helps out, being that not every job is the exact same. So since it's not just an assembly line where you're doing the exact same thing every day, kind of be able to think on your own a little bit, that definitely goes a long way, in our industry at least.
So a lot of problem solving.
Absolutely, yeah. Problem solving is definitely probably one of the best skills you could have for what we do.
Absolutely. Nick, anything
For
you
us,
can add with that, or?
yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. It's being willing to work in any environment and enjoying the spring weather that we might have to, maybe a little bit of the cold weather. It's just being outside and enjoying it, and then just coming willing to want to work and wanting to learn and having that, don't have a problem jumping in and just helping out and doing those things. It's when you have the people that just kind of sit back and just kind of stare, kind of make some of the other people shut down and cruise, versus the people that are willing to get their hands dirty and just jump right in and ask the questions and be right next to the people will go a long ways.
Absolutely. Very nice. And when talking about work environment, Nick, how do seasons play in with what you guys do? I mean, obviously in those warmer seasons, that's ideal. How do your winters work?
So in our winters, we'll be doing snow removal when it does snow, but we'll also find winter projects to do if it's here in our office or if it's out on job sites. I mean, we can still do some landscaping throughout the winter. So we'll keep doing that. We'll do some hardscaping, such as retaining walls and that kind of thing. And then that's also when we do our recertifications. If you're a chemical licensed person, you're doing your classes for that. Or we've had some other folks this winter that have gotten certified to build retaining walls over 4 feet tall. So we take those opportunities for continuing education.
Okay, awesome. What kind of certifications, just on that note, would be beneficial for somebody to come into the industry with? Is OSHA a big piece that you guys work with? Or are there certain certifications that students can get prior to starting a career in the industry? Or are those things that they can really specialize in once they're in?
So for us, it'd be once you get in, get going, then you can get some certifications. As far as the OSHA 10-hour, unless we're doing big commercial projects, it usually doesn't come into play. But it's not a bad thing to have anyway, just because it's teaching you the safety aspects, because what we do is not always the safest when you're running equipment and that kind of thing. So having some background and having some knowledge on safety is never a bad thing.
Okay. Justin, for you, is there any certain certifications that would be beneficial?
Yeah, not necessarily for us. I do agree, more of the commercial side of it is where you run into more of those applications. And of course, whenever you get on scissor lifts and equipment like that, having training on anything like that, which for us isn't as common, being that we do majority residential work. But I totally agree with that. I mean, safety is huge. So of course, any continued education like that anyways never hurts to have regardless. But I would definitely say that would be a great option Any of the OSHA training would be great. For us, as you get into some of the commercial parts of it, welding isn't a bad course to have either. So any welding certifications, like I said, we don't do a whole lot of that right now, but again, this would even be a good potential role for anyone going through the welding program at Herndon as well. So a lot of that can kind of tie together, just more metal fabrication as well. And so I would say, yeah, there's probably a lot of great certifications you could get even just there like Herndon. But outside of that, one thing all of our employees do drive vehicles. So that's a big thing. Of course, having a driver's license is one requirement. I know it doesn't hurt to have like your Class E license as well, which I know is not very hard to get. And that's something that we can even help train on that and then send them to get that as well after they start with us. But that's just another option as well, just for driving commercial vehicles.
Absolutely. I hadn't thought of that piece, but yeah, that plays a big part. Salary. One of the questions that a few of the questions that we have come in have really focused on, students want to know what is the different, well, we know the difference between that hourly and salary piece, but what are the differences with that in your company? Are there offers? Can you do hourly or salary? How does that play a role in your industry?
Yeah, for us, I would say majority anyone starting out would be hourly. So for us, and I didn't get to mention earlier, but hour wise, pretty much always a guaranteed 40 hours with opportunity for overtime. So I would say on average, our guys probably work between probably 40 to 50 hours. I mean, there are some weeks where if we really have a lot going on and you're wanting to stay and work longer, I mean, you might be able to get 55, maybe even 60 hours in if you're wanting to work that much, but that's not required. I would say just that 40 hours is completely fine if that's all you want to work. But like I said, normally plenty of opportunity. I would say typically our guys end up working 45 to 50 hours a week. With that hourly, we typically start out at around $18 an hour. And then from there, it can range all the way up to around 25, just depending on, level of experience. And a lot of that does come into play with more of like that problem solving and I guess how much work you can get done on your own to where, if I can send a guy out and I just know that regardless of what situation he gets in, he's going to be able to, get it taken care of, the correct way. Of course, that's definitely going to be more valuable to our company, just knowing that it's better for our customers as well, just being able to get everything taken care of all at once while the, technician's there versus having to send out, multiple guys to get the job taken care of. So I guess it all just kind of depends on kind of that willingness to learn, and then again, problem solving as well. Definitely can kind of dictate, I guess, how much you end up making with our company.
Okay.
So with us, we're about the same starting wages. The biggest difference between we're probably 50 hours in the summer, if not a little bit more, and then the winter can flex down to about 30 hours. So for us, you can go either hourly or salary. Some of our folks do choose to go salary. Yeah, they work a little bit more in the summer, but it levels out in the winter. And then also they do get some flex time if they have a doctor's appointment or something like that. They're able to take off and not have to worry about losing a couple hours of work type deal. So for us, it just kind of depends on what your mindset is. Some people love the salary in the winter, but then when it comes to summertime and they realize they're working 50 hours a week, they're going, well, I feel like I'm getting shortchanged. So it's all in what mindset you are. If you're great at budgeting money and that kind of thing, then hourly works just as well. If you know that you're going to make more in the summer and less in the winter, and you put money away, then that's great. But if you're one of those ones that isn't the greatest at budgeting, then maybe salary is the way to go.
Okay, good. I heard you mention vacation time. Is it, I guess in this industry, I know a lot of the times, just depending on the path that, vacation time doesn't always exist, because if you're not working on the job, then, you're not making that money. And so how does vacation and benefits play into your guys' companies? Is it something that's offered? Is it something that, there's certain months you can and can't take?
Yeah, for us, that is definitely something that we offer. So right away, after the first year you're with us, you do get a full week of vacation time. And that is one of those things that for us, it doesn't necessarily matter which or what part of the year you take that in. We just, would like notice ahead of time to make sure, because a lot of our jobs are scheduled out ahead of time to where it's, definitely beneficial, for us to know ahead of time when that time needs to be taken off. But yeah, we do offer vacation time. And then, longer you're with our company, of course, the more that vacation time kind of accrues. And then as far as benefits, we do offer health care as well. So we have health insurance and dental insurance, which is paid in full for our employees. And then, of course, they would just have to take care of any additional insurance they need on there. But yeah, so we do have vacation time and health insurance.
Great.
So with us, we get vacation and they can use it anytime they want to after the first year. And then we offer 401k with match. And then we also do health insurance and dental. So it just depends on what you want, but that's a huge deal for our folks anymore is the health insurance.
Yep.
Absolutely. One piece to residential I know is that, ultimately you guys said that you're working with that customer. When it comes to like new builds, how do all those pieces work together? I know there's so many different specialties that have to come together in order to get that final complete or that house finalized. How do you guys work within the other industries and making sure that, when you're at the location, you're able to do your job without conflicting, with the other specialties, like maybe an electrician or a plumber or something like that?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of that has more to do with communicating with either the superintendent or the builder of the job. Working with them just to make sure that it is going to be a good time for you to show up. I know we've had a handful of times where we'll get called in a little bit later on. Oh, hey, we're supposed to have garage doors in by now, but we forgot to call you up. So can you come get them installed? And by then, there might be a trim rack in the garage that completely takes up all the space to where we can't even get the job done. Or you show up one day and they're pouring a driveway and you can't even get into the garage. So there definitely are different instances where you run into that with other trades where it's difficult or just impossible to work around, at least that day. So a lot of that's just coordinating, I'd say, with, again, more like the project manager or the superintendent of the job ahead of time. That's probably the best way to go about working with and around other trades.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And we're the last ones in, so we're usually the ones getting rushed there at the end so that they can get closed on the house. So it's the biggest thing for us is just to make sure that the yard is graded so we can get in there and get the job done.
Okay. And how does, as the consumer, if I'm the homeowner, or I'm expecting that final product, how does that decision-making process work? What if I walk up to the house and I've said, no, that's not what I was expecting. I was expecting these, and somewhere that communication happened between the contractor or the superintendent to you guys. How does that customer service piece come in that conflict resolution?
I would say on something like that, it would probably go more through the builder or again the superintendent as kind of a middleman on that. We don't work directly with a lot of the end consumers with builders, at least, or with contractors. It seems like it works out better to go through them, just because we don't necessarily communicate with the homeowner or have any kind of I guess communication with them prior to that. And there's a handful of times that we'll have everything done before the house may even have a new owner. And so it may just be a home that they're building just to put on the market to sell after the fact. So I guess we don't have a whole lot to do on the customer facing side of it when it comes to new construction. But sometimes we will work with customers if they want more of like a custom door. A lot of builders don't necessarily do that. But I guess there are still a handful of them that will have us work directly with them as far as picking out the different doors, different options on their windows, finishes. But with builders, a lot of that's normally fairly simple, where they just they send us over a work order and say, here's the house, put the same little door on it that we put on all of them. So that's pretty standard, I'd say, for a lot of new construction for us. So on that part of it, we don't work with the homeowners a whole lot on that.
Okay. Very
So
nice.
for us, as soon as we know who the homeowner is going to be, we'll sit down with one of our designers. We'll go through their allowance and then do a custom design for them. So then after it's done, before, we'll usually meet them out there, and then we'll walk through it one last time to ensure that they got everything they needed, versus waiting till they go to close and they're not going to close because they didn't like where the hydrangea was planted or something like that. We'll go through it. We'll make sure the design and everything matches, and then just make sure everybody's happy. And then they sign that off, and we move down the road, and they get to move into the house.
Very nice. Okay, so a little more tailored on your end. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left, and like I said, if anybody has any questions that they want to pop into the Q&A as we're kind of rounding out our session, please feel free to do so.
Hey, this one isn't in the Q&A, but I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, so both you guys started your businesses at a pretty young age, and I know, Nick, you had some training through college, and Justin, you were straight out of high school. And Justin, you kind of talked about this a little bit, but what was, I guess, your biggest surprise in starting a business? Because then you get into, like having employees, and some of these students, they may want to start their own company. What was one thing that really surprised you whenever you started your business?
Yeah. So one thing, of course, for me, everything was pretty new. So I was learning a whole lot every day. And for me, I guess, and this is just more me personally, but I learn from experience faster than anything. So for me, that was the best way, is just kind of getting in there and getting started. I'd say probably one of the tougher things was getting a customer base going. Going from, just being in high school, it's not like a lot of the people that I spent time with, a lot of my friends necessarily could use my service. So it was kind of finding a whole new market, I guess, for what I was doing. So kind of figuring that out, gaining those customers. And then when I got to that point, hiring employees, that was probably another more difficult part, just being that I hadn't had experience in that prior. Doing the actual work, that was actually pretty easy. That part, yeah, that always came pretty easy to me, and I always liked that portion of it. It's just the rest of the business aspects of it, and then of course, a growing business as well. Every day you're learning new things, figuring out different hurdles that you have to overcome. So I'd say just kind of that willingness to learn. Continued education is definitely huge. That was my biggest thing, is just constantly, from job to job, listening to podcasts about business. Again, whether it was related to my specific industry or not, it seemed like that was probably one of the best ways you could really just, learn, again, other people's experiences starting out. So yeah, I would say probably that, for me at least, the customer base was probably the hardest thing, is just getting customers as a new business. Getting my name out there was probably the hardest part. But it was word of mouth. You do a good job, great customer service, and it seems like that was one thing that I noticed the garage door industry kind of lacked, was that good customer service. So for me, that went a long ways. Being that it was kind of new for a lot of our customers to have, that good customer experience. Definitely word of mouth wise helped get our name out there a lot faster. So that's kind of how, I guess, we got through that. Getting the customer base, gaining those customers as a brand new business. That's, I'd say, just do a good job, do what you say you're going to do, and it seems like the rest just kind of takes over from there.
Awesome. Thank you. Tell me, what do you guys wish you knew in high school versus now working as an adult? Nick, do you want to start us off?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I mean, the number one thing is never burn a bridge. You never know when that bridge is going to come back. If even if you just think, I'm a high school person and I'm just taking this job just for something to do, you never know when you're going to reconnect with that person down the road, or where that's going to lead you. Always leaving those bridges and those doors open will be tenfold to be able to just use those later on down the life.
Absolutely. Justin, anything for you?
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with all of that. I still work with quite a few of my previous employers just throughout high school, doing garage door work for them now. So again, keeping that relationship definitely is huge. So that's definitely a big part of it. One thing I guess I would say that I've kind of learned is that experience is probably for me, one of the most important things. I definitely will say all the experience I got between, even Herndon, that it's education as well, but it was just the experience as well that I got to, learn everything that I did. And again, throughout high school, always just doing something different. I used to mow lawns as well. Had a little vending machine business for a while there, and then worked on a framing crew. So I did quite a few different things, and that kind of helped lead me to what I ended up doing today. Just having those different experiences, figuring out what I liked, didn't like, and then I guess for me, just I don't know, just more of the experience of working with other people. I think was probably the biggest thing that led me to wanting to start my own business, being my own boss. So kind of just I think experience, that's probably the biggest thing. If I would have known, which I guess I did quite a few different things back in high school, work related, but I would definitely recommend that. I knew ahead of time I really didn't want to go to college right off the bat, so I guess that kind of helped me out, at least knowing that if I wasn't going to go to college, focus on other things that might lead me to the career I want to get to. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Absolutely. All right. Our final question. What is your best advice in choosing a career?
I'd say do something that you like. You're going to do it for a long time and you're going to do a lot of hours. So you better like it. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable.
Find something you love.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. It seems like if you like what you're doing, it doesn't seem near as much like work. So, and with that too, find a good company with people that you like being around, because that's the other thing, is that you're working with other employees. You're going to be spending a lot of the day with them. So definitely make sure you find companies that have just good values, and at the end of the day, just have a good company culture as well. I think is another big part of it.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us and taking the time to be with us and our attendees. These sessions will be recorded and posted on the website where you registered for later viewing as well. So if you want to come back to it, feel free to jump on our website and check those videos out. But again, thank you, Justin and Nick, for being with us. We appreciate all your advice that you gave, and hope to see you guys again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.